All right. When doing a specialization program for two body parts, which is something I like to use often, so for 4 to 6 weeks, should I follow that by 1 or 2 weeks of easy training to avoid interfering with circumvention? Okay, lots of things going on here. First, let's address that circumvention thing. Circumvention, when it comes to muscle growth, is not a thing. Okay, you cannot circumcompensate protein synthesis. You cannot circumcompensate muscle growth. Okay, you can only, from a lifting perspective, circumcompensate glycogen storage, which can happen if you deplete muscle glycogen either through carbs restriction or a volume increase. So that would, in both cases, reduces glycogen stores. If those glycogen stores in your muscle become low enough, your body will upregulate its capacity to store carbs in a muscle. Okay, so that's the only type of circumvention that can actually occur in lifting. You cannot circumcompensate muscle growth. What happens is, after a stimulus is applied on a muscle, training session, protein synthesis, taking the protein you're ingesting and building muscle from it, is increased by for 30 to 36 hours. Okay. After the 36-hour period, protein synthesis inside the trained muscle becomes normal again. So in balance with protein breakdown. So after that point, it's kind of hard to add new tissue. Okay. So most of the growth for muscle will occur in that 36 hours period. And even more so the first 24 hours, because at 36 hours, it's fairly low. Anyway, so let's say that you're doing a specialization program, getting a muscle 3 days a week. So Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, your specialization days. You do, let's say, for example, chest and triceps, for example. And the rest of the day, that's on Tuesday and Friday, Tuesday and Saturday, for example, you do the rest of the body. Okay, the first thing is, and I want to mention that, and I will get back to that later, is that when you increase the training volume or the amount of work you're doing, on a weekly basis for one or two muscle, you must reduce volume elsewhere, okay, or training stress elsewhere. I like to say that when you put something in your program, you also must put something out or take something out. You cannot just keep adding stuff. That's the easy part. Instinctively, we think, I want more bicep, and I'm just gonna add more biceps work to my workout. Yeah, but the problem is that will lead to an increase in overall systemic stress that might actually become too much to optimally recover from and limit your gains. So just to be sure, you need to, for example, if you know that you can tolerate 60 sets per week, that I'm just making this up, okay? Just let's say 60 sets per week. If you decide to allocate 30 of those sets, let's say 20 of those sets for chest, 20 of those sets for triceps, that per week, that leaves you only 20 sets for the rest of the body. So whether you're spreading these 60 sets across evenly or deciding to use more of that available resources on two muscles, but you need to decrease how much you invest on other muscles. Otherwise, the systemic stress is going to be too high. Now let's get back to your question. So circumvention doesn't occur. So if you're training a muscle 3 days a week in your specialization, protein synthesis will stop being elevated after that 36 hours after your last workout for that muscle. So there's no circumvention going on those muscles for the next 2 weeks. Okay, what can happen is those muscles might feel flatter because you're constantly training them and depleting muscle glycogen there. So once you stop training them or reduce training greatly after the specialization, they might feel bigger because you will have upregulated glycogen storage in those muscles and now no longer have the volume to drain that glycogen store for 1 or 2 weeks. You will be in like circumvention mode for glycogen, but not for protein synthesis. So it gives the illusion that you might have built more muscle in those 2 weeks, but you really have not. Now, but it's still important to, after you've done specializing with a muscle, to go back down in volume. You don't have to stop training that muscle. It's not a deload, but you certainly need to go back down to just to be able to resensitize the muscle and just to be able to invest that volume elsewhere. Okay. Now, so do you need to deload? No, because if you look at this, if you do it properly, you increase volume for the 1 or 2 specialized muscle, but you reduce volume elsewhere, the overall stress, the systemic stress on your body is the same. So there's no need for deload because the training was no more stressful than normal for your whole body or organism. It just was divided differently. So no, you don't need a deload, but you certainly should reduce training volume and frequency back to normal or even a bit lower level for the muscle you specialized on for 1 or 2 weeks.
If you enjoyed this information, hit that like button to let us know. Plus, if you never want to miss another T Nation video again, hit subscribe and that little notification bell right next to it.